A warm welcome to the most beautiful chess problems of all time. Here we have a problem by Liburkin from the year 1939. White is to move, and here we only have a knight and a pawn, but we can still win the game. Can you find the win? Feel free to pause the video. You have the chance to pause the video, and honestly, it doesn't really look promising. Black has a pawn here that's just about to promote. Alright, our king can stop that pawn. And our pawn, well, it still needs at least 2 more squares to promote. And we only have this knight left to support. What is the right move? I don't want to give too much away just yet. I'll just say, if we capture here, things look really grim, because rook to g6 attacks the pawn. Pushing the pawn forward, not a good idea. The rook gives check, captures the pawn. That's really not great. Instead, in this position, we would actually have to play something like king to f3, giving up the pawn, and then hope that with just the king and knight, you can at least somehow fight for a draw. Instead, the approach is this. Whenever we give black a chance to capture this pawn with their rook, then black can already secure a draw. In other words, we somehow have to get this pawn through, and unsurprisingly, the best first move is e7. Because we're threatening to promote the pawn, and the knight is at least controlling this critical square e5, which means the rook can't move there. But black still has a few ideas up his sleeve, and I'd say there are 2 interesting ideas involving the rook. One is to play rook to g8, saying, okay, I'm controlling the promotion square. But then, here's an interesting motif. We simply interpose the knight, blocking the path. And yes, black actually doesn't have that many options. He could try to bring his king closer, but then we just promote to a queen here. And even if black can win the knight here, we win the pawn, and queen versus rook is technically a win. So we can just check that off, so to speak. Task solved. So we see that if we move the rook to g8, we make things a bit too easy for white. It gets a bit more challenging if, as black, we play rook to g1 here. We still support the pawn promotion. And what if white gets a bit too greedy here and says, okay, I can promote my pawn first? Unfortunately, that doesn't help white at all, because black also promotes the pawn with check. And yes, white can win some material here, but a lone knight simply doesn't win a chess game. That's why it's a draw at this point. So white needs to come up with something better here, and the better solution isn't all that far-fetched. White can simply capture this pawn here. And what's actually the problem here now? This pawn here is hard to stop. Let's remember, rook to g8 doesn't work so well because of knight to f8, but black still has an interesting drawing resource. Rook to g8, knight to ef8, as just mentioned. And now black plays rook to g5. So, what's the trick here? Well, if white now, and you might certainly think this is the obvious move, promotes to a queen here, and already, perhaps even confidently, mentally considers the game won, and says this will result in a win for them, well then things look really grim. An interesting motif, rook to a5, check, and attacking both the king and the queen. And if the queen captures here, then whoops, it's a stalemate. Another interesting resource that black pulls out here. So if we reach this position, white shouldn't promote to a queen right away, but should play a different move. Can you find it? Feel free to pause the video again. And the move that wins the game here is incredibly knight to g6. What a choice. We control the e5 square, so the rook can't move there. And if the rook thinks, okay, I'll just capture it, then we actually promote to a queen here. Now, with this new queen, we have a technically won endgame against the rook. And that's how white can win the game. That was today's puzzle. If you enjoyed it, feel free to leave a like. And I've linked another puzzle for you. Go ahead and click on it. Then I'll see you again in the next video.